Welcome everyone to session one of what will be several sessions covering digital transformation. Today's session, we are going to be talking about what it is, what the roadblocks are, and how to get started with a good digital transformation strategy for your organization. My co-presenter today is Chris Donlin. Chris is with MicroCorp. Chris, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little about your background?
Sure. I am Chris Donlin. I am with MicroCorp. I'm a solution architect, among other things, and specializing in digital transformation. I've been in the IT and communication space for just about going on 25 years. So I've seen a lot of the evolution. I've seen the dot-com bubble. I've watched this change, and now it's an exciting time for businesses and anybody that is helping businesses, change the way they are doing business to become more efficient.
Excellent.
Yep, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been in the business of helping enterprises manage their IT assets and expenses for over 20 years. I was the founder of a company that introduced the first SaaS platform in this industry, and that was before we were calling it SaaS. And that platform helped enterprises manage their mobile devices and expenses. My expertise has since expanded into SaaS solutions that address a variety of IT assets and even broader range of other enterprise assets and expenses. Most recently, I've been working with organizations that support digital transformation with technology solutions, and happy to share what I'm able to do about DX and where it's going. So, well, Chris, let's get started. I think the most fundamental thing we need to understand is the fact that digital transformation is a term that has been used and overused by IT managers, executives, vendors alike. So what is the definition of digital transformation?
Yeah, I think it's important to set a baseline. And if we're going to talk about digital transformation, and we'll just agree that in a definition. According to George Westman, who is a principal research scientist at MIT, digital transformation marks a radical rethinking of how an organization uses technology, people, and processes, fundamentally change business performance. So if we use that as a baseline, okay, the idea is to use technology to not just replicate an existing service in a digital form, but to use technology to transform that service into something significantly better. Digital transformation involves using digital technologies to remake a process to become more efficient or effective. The idea is to use technology in a better form to fundamentally change how the business is doing what they do. So it's still a very nebulous idea, but the organizations can and should leverage their technologies to better engage with their internal, external customers. A successful strategy will certainly need to cross over the entire organization to be effective. It's a broad cross-functional strategy. It's not just impacting IT, but we're also talking about marketing, finance, HR, R&D, sales, all the critical departments of a business that make it run like a well-oiled machine. And it's all about driving efficiency internally and a better experience for internal customers as well.
So Chris, in your opinion, do you feel this is a fad, or is it a trend that will eventually die, or do you truly believe that this strategy will revolutionize enterprises?
Well, it's clearly not a fad if you look at the statistics and the numbers. 40% of all technology spending is going to go toward digital transformation, and enterprises are looking to spend in excess of $2 trillion through 2019, according to some analysts at the IDC. So it's clearly not something that is a fad, and definitely not a fad. It is a change, fundamental change in how businesses is going to proceed forward.
Mm-hmm. I agree. How do you feel enterprises are progressing in these strategies? Where do they stand right now, kind of as a whole?
Well, studies show there is progress, and some are currently underway, some are investigating, some are improving, but not necessarily transforming. Some have completed. A lot of enterprises are looking at it as a project, not a permanent state of being, and as much of a culture shift as I think that this is going to be.
Okay,
Just a matter
good.
of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Chris, when you're out talking to enterprises, what are some of the things that they are telling you are driving their DX strategies?
Well, there's clearly some definite drivers, and again, it all is about efficiency and critical business issues. This really isn't a technology conversation per se, but we talk about unlocking data silos. Businesses typically can be very, very siloed in terms of data, analytics, reporting. Customer satisfaction is always high on a business's list. New revenue streams. How do I quickly and efficiently get a new revenue stream? Maybe I have old revenue streams where the profitability is shrinking. Information on the go. Everybody needs information. We are a mobile community now, and people are living off mobile phones. So that needs to be that's a critical issue. Everybody needs an increased connectivity of everything. Everybody needs to be connected to everything: information, analytics, processes, people, and so on. Profit margins. There's no way an organization can put more. There's no way they can better create more efficiency and higher profit margins than utilizing technology. Intelligent work processes. This is critical restructuring of how they are doing their business. And something that two of the final drivers that I find really interesting are, kind of connecting those frontline people, soldiers of the business, with the executive office. Processes, technology, and so on are changing, so those executives are much more better informed about what's going on the front line because business is so rapidly changing. And then ultimately, we've got the millennial effect. As time goes on, we're going to get more and more of the millennials and how they expect, to be able to do their work going forward. They're going to be the driving culture inside businesses going forward. So, if you look at these drivers, there's a tremendous amount of change that needs to happen and will happen.
Very good. Okay, so what are since we look around and we see companies are in different stages of this. What are the roadblocks that you're seeing too in terms of launching and keeping the momentum moving within these organizations?
Well, one of the before we even address the challenges, one thing that's incredibly encouraging is that a lot of the digital transformation directive is coming from the C-suite. So these are coming from up top, and these strategies are being, they know that they need to do some sort of change, which is very refreshing because they make the changes. Nobody below them makes the changes. They may
Absolutely.
They may tactically make the changes, but they don't happen without their blessing and their directive. So that's very encouraging.
And I'm
but
seeing
some of the challenges though are some of it is just human nature. Organizational change. People are resistant to change, especially an organization that's been working a certain way for a period of time. That's understanding that's going to be a roadblock and could be difficult and challenging, but understood. It's understandable. Human beings still run the companies. Security. A lot of executives are very, very focused on security. In fact, well over 50% say security. I'm concerned about security if I'm going to utilize more technology, and that's understandable. So we just need to make sure we address that. Legacy systems. A lot of older legacy systems are not compatible with some new technology. So, it could be a challenge. They may have to retrofit some of their existing systems, and that could either delay a process or just make a project a little more challenging. Lack of clarity, it can be difficult to put a value and an ROI and a measurable message to a new process. So that's some challenges that we face. And then we get into a digital iceberg. Executive and business leaders are only aware of a small portion of the changes that are needed. If you go into any organization and you talk to the top and you ask them, what are your 3 challenges? I can almost guarantee you go down to the head of any department and their 3 challenges are going to be different than the top's
Right.
3 challenges. So,
Right.
There's just a lot of disconnect there, and we want to open up that communication. A lack of digital literacy. Like executive and business leaders don't necessarily understand this new technology. They're running a business and they don't have time to keep up with it. So that can be a challenge. And also understanding the consumer demand. That's probably, business is always trying to stay out in front and try to be at the right place at the right time for customers. So that's always a challenge for them. What do we what priorities did we put first, and how do we prioritize our projects?
Right. Okay, good. And today we're focusing primarily on digital transformation from an IT infrastructure perspective, and we're going to be doing that throughout this series. What should enterprise IT managers understand about this revolution?
I think a good focus strategy for digital transformation for IT would be looking to radically change business performance planning and budgeting, using digital technologies to move information effectively to better serve internal and external customers. It really has to start from the inside out. Other departments can certainly benefit, but IT needs to lay that foundation.
Yeah, agreed. The digital transformation by definition is technology, and certainly the IT folks need to own their portion of that part of the strategy for sure. So before we discuss some of the DX priorities, Chris, you and I had a discussion about X as a service. Let's focus on, first of all, that as part of the expected benefits of adopting this strategy for IT departments.
Yeah. The X as a service model is something that I'm a huge fan of. And really what it is, it's a consumption model that is different, and it's kind of twofold if you look at it. It refers to two facets, I say. One is hiring out expertise and consuming that on an as a service, monthly, yearly, whatever that may be, in a format. Okay, instead of having it yourself or the expertise. The second is the actual technology that is available now as the cloud computing has grown and expanded to be so much more powerful than it used to be, to the point where most of your IT services you can get on an as a service model. And I liken it to, just outsourcing things that change too fast, that are just too taxing. And that concept has really matured to this point, to the point where the global market has grown at a rate of about 40% from 2016 to 2020.
Yeah.
And what I find most interesting is the as a service culture, or as a service, is becoming more of a mindset and a culture as much as a strategy. It's like, why, everything becomes, why don't we consume things this way?
Yeah.
And there's tremendous benefits too.
Yeah. And I'm certainly seeing that as well. ServiceNow is a great example of, 60% of enterprises, and that's, increasing from there, have adopted a ServiceNow strategy for this very reason. And it's certainly creating a lot of opportunity as new companies come into this X as a service space. Yeah. Let's talk about some benefits of X as a service specifically, if you would, please.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty fundamental, and they're very impactful. First of all, they can lower costs. Renting something and renting expertise can be less costly than purchasing it and managing it yourself. Flexibility, instead of, these providers are, you're using the power of the provider, and whether their infrastructure or their staff or whatever it may be, they can manage, change quickly. They can, and also handle scalability much better than if you may be doing it yourself. Maintenance done by the provider. Then the customer staff, end user staff, and resources can focus on running that business and making that business more efficient. Great one is easy access to new technologies. Again, these are organizations that are focusing on this service, whatever that may be, and they are making the advancements and changes themselves. That's their core business, where you as the consumer can end up taking advantage of that. And again, new business services are able to be very, very quickly, because again, that's their core business and that's what they do, and you are just, you are accessing it. So you're just, benefiting from them, from that provider, whatever that may be, expanding and growing, changing. And also allows for quick responses to market developments. If the market changes, you as the end user who are, again, you are taking advantage of that provider's focus on them being relevant and them being the best in their industry and what they're providing. So you could then, allows you to focus on what you're doing and focus on your business, and not some of these services and have to maintain them yourself.
Yeah. So, we've talked about the benefits. We've talked about what it is. I'm sure some of our viewers are on the front end of their strategy. So where should an enterprise begin to execute?
Well, first you need to understand your environment. That's, if you don't understand your environment, if you don't know where you are, how do you know where to go? And that's Jim, you've had years experience in this subject. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree. First and foremost, when I'm out talking to organizations and IT managers in particular, I really recommend that they understand their current environment completely. And some have probably already started and have pieces of it, but really need to understand their entire estate. And that would be what technologies currently exists. Do I have contractual obligations that I have to contend with?
Exactly.
How much am I spending so I can budget this thing? And that'll be a solid basis for a case study to understand the efficiencies, the cost reductions that are inherent with a DX strategy. And this can be accomplished much more quickly by outsourcing a network audit. And if you partner with the right vendor to do that, you can actually do this without having to create a budget for it, meaning that there are vendors out there who would expect to find savings as they uncover the types of services that are being used today, and they'll often share in that savings as their fees. So it's not something that the IT manager will have to go get budget approval on.
Mm-hmm.
And if they partner with the right provider as well, most of them have a SaaS platform that'll allow them to be able to share with the IT managers what these expenses and assets are, and really help them make informed decisions about what they're going to do in this strategy by actually just seeing everything that's in their environment. So we're going to cover this extensively during our next session, but certainly once the environment is understood, IT managers will have a better and informed start on making decisions on what to tackle first. What are your ideas on where to start?
Well, I mean, if we look at where to start, what you just said is critical. Understanding where you are from a holistic perspective, and then maybe drill down into different areas to get a full understanding, right? From just an opportunity perspective, if you look at the tools that a business is using today, many of them can be consumed in a as a service model, as we've discussed. The easy one The most common one, and that I see businesses the route they take first, is email. You know, and from an Exchange server, a piece of hardware sitting in a closet, buying licenses from Microsoft every year, every 5 years, whatever contract they choose, and having to manage it themselves and so on, moving that to Office 365. I mean, Office 365 is effectively Office sitting on a server in Microsoft's cloud infrastructure around the globe, and you are acquiring it, and you don't have to manage it, and you don't have to buy licenses, you don't have to maintain that server, you don't have to pay for the power for that server, you're just consuming it on a monthly basis. So, I mean, that's the easiest one. But after that, we look at all the other tools that businesses use to just, or an IT department uses to run that business, right? We look at phone systems. And you know, we can do unified communications as a service for a phone solution, call center, IT staff as a service, you know, to supplement your IT staff, which are very, very expensive. You know, if I can supplement that and not have to go out as a business and you know, put another $130,000, $140,000 into my budget every year for a person, that can be very beneficial. So many of these business tools are now available as a service. What I find in talking with an organization with multi-site, you know, that has a wide area network, that technology has evolved and into something called SD-WAN. And SD-WAN in a nutshell is really an evolution of a wide area solution that allows businesses to take advantage of these cloud services, of all these changes in mobility demand and on-demand services and application performance that old WAN technologies just simply do not accommodate. So, you know, a lot of times what we do is we can recommend replacing or augmenting, even in a migration, a current and voice data technology with SD-WAN. The core proposition is it dramatically improvises the entire enterprise networking ecosystem. With SD-WAN, geographic boundaries are erased. Key benefits such as visibility, scalability, performance, and control are all enhanced way beyond anything that was ever available by MPLS. One of the great, and I just had this conversation yesterday, one of the key and key aspects and what makes SD-WAN so attractive is it doesn't have bandwidth restrictions. It is bandwidth agnostic. So if you're in an area that has very, you know, poor network element performance, meaning I don't have fiber, maybe I've got DSL or I've got satellite or whatever it may be, it does, you know, I can add whatever type of network element I need to create my wide area network. And that allows me to really look at cost effectively addressing my network and saying, okay, do I really need all these MPLS links for my branch offices? Well, maybe I can scale that back. And even if I'm scaling back, you know, 10% on my cost, well, if I multiply that 10% out times 50 locations, that's a sizable amount. So, you know, not only that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about, you know, lowering costs, but then we're also increasing efficiency and we're increasing that performance and scalability and control. And I mean, we could go down an SD-WAN rabbit hole all day long, at least I could. So it really allows you to look at the network elements and right size them for your network. Edge security is huge. You know, as we talked about earlier, executives are concerned about security. So when we talk about a wide area network solution and moving maybe away from a private MPLS network, we have to talk about security. So SD-WAN can provide network edge security with firewalls built into that solution. A lot of companies today prefer architectures that integrate security, policy, orchestration, or reporting and control. SD-WAN covers all those bases by unifying that secure connectivity.
Yep. And Chris, I know these are the services that you work with day in and day out, and you're very passionate about, we're going to give everybody an opportunity to have your contact information, and if they want to dig into these any further. But this is a great list, and really would be a great place for someone who's on the front end of their strategy to start looking at these for sure. Before we end, here's some additional, let's speak to some of these additional kind of benefits and statistics that might help somebody further bolster their business case for acting on some of these technologies, in the very near future.
Yeah, I mean this this slide here really kind of represents the business issues, right? That an organization is trying to solve. And these are opportunities, right? So if you're walking into an organization and you want to be that trusted advisor, you're going to be that trusted advisor by helping them solve their critical business issues. And some of these opportunities are competition. 2/3 in the Gartner report, 2/3 of business leaders think their companies need to speed up digital transformation or they're going to lose to competitors. I mean, that is a huge, think about it. That's a critical business issue that is going to keep a CEO up at night. Skills gap. 40% of IT workers say they're not getting trained. They need the training they need to be effective in their jobs. They just don't have the time. They don't have the time for the training. It's changing too fast. Okay, in the end, as a service model, as we talked about, they're always up to the latest and greatest because that's their core business. Staffing gap. As IT jobs open and continue to rise, there are not enough skilled workers to fill them, particularly in security roles. So if I'm a CEO, if I'm running a business, first of all, why do I want to incur that $150,000, $200,000 a year cost when I can consume that expertise on a much easier basis, or maybe take 4 or 5 months to even find that position to fill? Why? You don't even need to. Budgets. Half of IT and line of business respondents say that budgets are a barrier to firming security. Security is expensive. People are expensive. Security appliances, solutions are expensive. So when you can take a fixed cost on an annual or monthly basis and build it in, your CFO's happy, your CEO's happy, your CISO's happy, because all the bullets that the boxes need to be checked are checked. And technology. Nearly a quarter of CIOs were most concerned with upgrading legacy systems to improve efficiency. So if I'm looking at this, there's a tremendous opportunity to, out there for, to help businesses through this digital transformation journey.
Thank you very much, Chris. This was very insightful. As mentioned earlier, we have another session upcoming. We'll be covering the topic, knowing your environment. What do I have? How is it used? How much does it cost? By viewing this session, you'll automatically receive a link in your email once that session becomes available. If, like me, you're impatient and you don't want to wait until the next session, or you have some questions you'd like to ask regarding today's session, feel free to contact Chris or I using the information here on the screen. We'll be happy to chat with you on the phone, schedule a discovery question with you about what your DX strategies are, and see if we can help you move those along. So, Chris, thanks for your insight. I look forward to our next session.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun.
Excellent. Very good. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Look forward to future sessions.